All right, hello everyone. Thank you and welcome to the Health and Wellness webinar today. We have a few more people logging on, so we'll get started here in a few minutes. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. Hello everyone. Thank you for participating in the virtual corporate challenge presented by Elevance Health. My name is Patrick Corbett, and I'm happy to welcome you to today's Health and Wellness webinar presented by Franciscan Health. I would love for everyone to introduce themselves in the chat by sharing your name and company. We want to know who is joining us. We also encourage you to ask questions you may have during today's presentation using the Q&A function. We'll save some time at the end to cover any questions we receive. Indiana Sports Corp has hosted the Corporate Challenge for more than 25 years, and what we love most about this event is how it allows us to connect with companies throughout the community. This supports our mission to create positive impact by hosting world-class sporting events, which drive economic vitality, facilitate a vibrant community with civic pride, garner national and international media attention, and create opportunities for our youth. We have tons of ways to get involved with these events and with our mission through membership and volunteering. Don't forget that volunteering for Corporate Challenge earns points towards your company's total. For additional info about our mission or to sign up as a volunteer, go to indianasportscorp.org and follow us on social. I'll put the link in the chat now so you can learn more about our organization after today's webinar. This year's virtual corporate challenge would not have been possible without the tremendous support of our corporate partners. In addition to Elevance Health, I'd like to thank our corporate champion sponsors, Franciscan Health, Group 1001, Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Lucas Oil, the NCAA, Republic Airways, Zimmer Biomet, as well as our associate and on-site sponsors. Before I introduce today's guest speaker, let's see a quick video from one of our sponsors, the NCAA.
Caitlin Clark, amazing at assists. Gamebridge, the ultimate assist for your savings. But ever since they teamed up, she's taken assisting to a whole new level. Caitlin Clark, graded assists. Gamebridge, graded assists for your savings.
The NCAA, driving change to do more for today's student athletes. The NCAA programs deliver $4 billion in scholarships every year. Those D1 scholarships are now guaranteed. Health and well-being services are mandatory. Student athletes get tutoring as well as financial literacy coaching because almost everyone is going pro in something other than sports. The NCAA, driving change to do more for today's student athletes.
Whether you want to fly more, lead more, train more, learn more, or teach more, the more you want to achieve, the more support you'll need, which is what you'll find when you land at Republic. Republic Airways, welcome aboard.
All right, and now without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Anna Turner, who will lead today's session. Anna is a sports dietitian with over a decade of sports nutrition experience. Anna has helped manage large sports nutrition programs at Power 5 universities, NFL, WNBA, and IndyCar racing teams. Anna understands the importance of sports nutrition education and wants to provide that opportunity to every athlete, no matter where they live or what sports they play. Anna, thanks so much for being here today, and I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patrick. All right. Patrick, can you just confirm that you can see my presentation?
I can't at the moment, no.
You can't. No, okay. Sorry. Start here, click share, screen, tab, and there we go. All right, here we go.
Good to go.
All right, so today I am going to take you on a journey from learning about how to fuel your life and fitness goals and use some athlete tools that we use as athletes and working with athletes to assess your progress and how you're doing so that we don't just look at one area of our life. So we'll get into what that means. As Patrick said, my name's Anna Turner. I'm a sports dietitian, and I have a long history of working in the college athlete setting. So I've previously worked at the universities and teams up here, and currently I work with the universities and teams down here. And then I also am a consultant performance dietitian with Franciscan Health. I am a sports dietitian because we do an extra specialization in athletic nutrition for the active population. But as I grow and as my target population adjusts from just college athletes or just professional athletes to that group of people and also regular active adults, I like to also call myself a performance dietitian because everybody can be trying to achieve peak performance, not just athletes. So that's really a lot of what you'll see here today is we're going to bring some of that peak performance mindset and methodologies and present them to you and show them how you can use them in your life so that you can be achieving peak performance as well. So these are some of the topics that we are going to go over today. We're going to introduce the athlete-centered model of health and fitness. We are going to, with each section that I go through, we're going to talk about appropriate goals and what you could be setting as your goal at the end of that section. We're going to go over what diet culture is and what the BMI is and what that means, and do we use it, do we not use it? We're going to talk about it. We're also going to discuss what annual lab work you should be having on your checklist, and why annual lab work is important in general. We're also going to get to the nutrition part of it, where we're going to learn how to build our meals and our overall nutrition plan in a way that is really easy to understand, and how to blend your meal plan in with your activity level in a way that promotes health and fitness, no matter if you are somebody who gets in a 30-minute walk after work or whether you're training for a marathon. Either way, you can use the method that I'm going to show you to easily navigate your nutrition plan, and how that changes based on your athletic goals and workouts. And then lastly, we'll put that all together in a fueling schedule, which is really what we call your meal plan. So by the end of this presentation, you should be able to understand some goals and objective, or some goals that you could set for yourself for this year to help you really track your health and nutrition. And then by the end, you could also be filling out your own meal plan. So we're going to talk about the athlete-centered model in health, and how it is different, and a lot more, and cares a lot more for our body and performance than the traditional approach to health, which is the weight-centered approach, right? So we have the athlete-centered approach and we have the weight-centered approach. The weight-centered model really puts diet culture in the middle and weight, meaning this is the part that is the most important, is the outcome, and is your weight. And historically, we'll get into what your BMI is, but I think historically, this has been the reason that this has existed like this, that weight has been the ultimate biomarker of our health status, has been really from the development of using the BMI. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but so the weight-centered model really puts weight at the core of equaling health. Is your weight in a healthy place? And it really is a input and output equation, meaning your nutrition plan is your input and your exercise is your output. And historically, that's kind of been what we've been given, or what we've tried to follow in order to maintain what we want, which is health. After working with professional and collegiate athletes for over a decade now, there's so much more that goes into the performance of their body other than their weight. And that is the ultimate thing that I want you to take away from today. Because even if you're a regular person who's working, a desk job for 40 hours a week, but you do, your performance, whether you're a regular person or a very active person, matters. Your performance, and how you're able to show up for your family, or complete, health challenges like running a 5K or walking a 5K. Your performance matters, and it matters in all areas of your life. And so that's really what we're supporting through a healthy lifestyle. So it's really taking those tools that we use at the collegiate and professional athlete level and bringing them down and using them for what we call, us normal people. So this is the athlete-centered model. We put the athlete or the person in the center of it. And there are all these different factors that come into play when it comes to how you perform as a person and what your health status looks like, right? We have our nutrition. What does your nutrition look like? Are you meeting your essential vitamins and your macros and micros when it comes to your nutrition? Your body composition and bone density. What does that look like? Is your body composition in a healthy place? Is your bone density in a healthy place? in a place that, can continue to age well and support you as you get older. Social determinants of health is also really important, and something that, sometimes when it comes to achieving ultimate health is forgotten about. So what does your access to nutrition look like? What is your access to being able to go outside and go on a walk? This is one of the things that one of the areas that I am very centered in, or very firm is the word, very firm in where I live, is I have to have a sidewalk. My husband would prefer to live in the country, on a country road, and I grew up that way, and it takes away my ability to go outside and go on a walk safely and with my 3 little children. So that is one of the, social determinants of health that I am very firm in, is that I will live where there are sidewalks and lighting and, access to being able to get some gentle movement in a very healthy or easy to access way. So that's something to think about. What does that look like for you? Are you in a safe place? Do you have sidewalks? Is it a busy road? How does that affect your movement on a daily basis? Cardio training, are you doing any cardio training? Flexibility training. This is also important as well. And lab values are extremely important. We're going to talk about that a lot today. Assessing your sleep status. If you are, this is a hot topic right now, is sleep status. So making sure that you are getting in good sleep and taking care of your sleep schedule, right? Making sure you're consistently going to bed around the same time and waking up around the same time really helps regulate your circadian rhythm, which helps regulate so many other hormones in your body. So a lot of your health really does center around good sleep. And then obviously good sleep helps with stress management. So what I'm trying to say here is there are so many different areas that affect a athlete's peak performance. And those are the exact same areas that affect us as regular people. And we can look at it from the aspect of performance or health status. So our goal is to build appropriate goals. So assess the athlete-centered model and formulate goals that you would like to start assessing yourself in, right? Do you want to improve your sleep and start going to bed at 10 o'clock instead of 11 o'clock, right? A really, really good one that everyone should have on their list is an annual lab work. So make sure on an annual time frame you are getting your labs done. All right, so diet culture. This is the weight-centered approach to health, right? This is not taking into consideration all of those factors that exist. And again, the weight-centered approach really did, it was born from the use of BMI. So in the 1970s, insurance companies wanted a way to be able to predict unhealthy people. And so they ended up utilizing a calculation that, measured your height versus your weight and was able to say that this is what your BMI is. It's a measure of your height versus your weight. And the study of BMI, though, only was done in white European males. So it didn't take into consideration, even different races like Asians or Samoans, or even women. So that's where this can become really confusing and hard to use. And so in practical terms, it doesn't help us in certain scenarios. For example, I had a 14-year-old baseball player who was told that he was obese based on his BMI number, right? Well, I could tell by looking at him that he wasn't. So I did a body composition test on him to show him and prove to him and his parents that he was a very healthy, lean athlete. So this is, again, one of the reasons why this can be confusing and and not super helpful when it comes to setting appropriate goals. So what can we do instead of using the BMI is we can use those other factors listed on that page that really show the different areas of your health status. So instead of BMI, we could use body composition, which is a far more accurate number. And, we didn't have those numbers back then. So that's why BMI was born. We have so much more technology these days. So that's what I would encourage you to do is utilize those other parameters to really show a more advanced picture of your health. So diet culture is the idea really simplistically of that weight-centered approach to health, right? That the only thing that really matters is the outcome of the number of your weight. And so the actual definition of diet culture is the pervasive belief that appearance and body shape are more important than physical, psychological, and general well-being. It's the idea that controlling your body, particularly your diet, by limiting what and how much you eat is normal. So obviously wanting to achieve a good health status is really the goal, right? So that's, again, where making sure we understand what does good health status mean and making sure that we are using that athlete-centered approach and all of the different areas within that framework instead of being more narrow and only thinking about the outcome, which is weight. So, all right, I'm going to skip forward to these are some Instagram accounts that you can follow that really promote a positive athlete-centered approach to health and fitness. So if you're looking for some extra nutrition education, this is mine right here, Anna Turner _ sports nutrition. Find Food Freedom is very athlete-centered, intuitive eating based. Jessica, the sports RD, and then Lauren Link at Purdue. All of the accounts here are very athlete-centered. So they are wanting you to be able to get to peak level performance through all the areas that we talked about and not just the weight and BMI numbers. So where is your health really? So we're going to bring it back to that athlete-centered model. Okay, so we know these are the areas that we should be looking at. It is a lot though, right? And that can be overwhelming. So it can be very helpful to work with somebody like a registered dietitian or even a personal trainer, somebody who can help you look at all of these areas and say, okay, what does your current fitness plan look like, right? What are you strength training? Do you have any flexibility going on cardio wise? Let's take a look at that full equation and see what that looks like. And are there any areas that we need to adjust, right? So that's assessing that area of your life, assessing sleep and stress. So being able to set some goals based on these are going to be really important. And then we make some improvements and then retest. So this is the assessments, right? We're going to assess our lab values. We're going to assess our body composition and bone density. And then this really here tells us a lot about our health status. And then these inputs, right? Like our fitness programming, our nutrition programming, our sleep, how we're taking care of our sleep and stress. These areas are really like our inputs, and our lab and assessment, our lab body comp and bone density are really like our outcome numbers we can look at. So that's what I see here is we're going to get annual lab values done, an annual body composition test or bone density test. And then we're going to make some adjustments. We're going to adjust our nutrition. We're going to adjust our fitness training and see what we get out of it. What you might see is that, if you train for a marathon, you might see your cardio fitness go up a lot. You might see your body composition adjust a little bit, but maybe your strength goes down a little bit, right? So all of it is really, utilizing markers to see where you're at, assessing where you're at, making a small change, and then seeing what the outcome is. And does that get you closer to a goal or overall health and performance? All right, so some annual lab work to get done would be completing a metabolic panel and in a CBC. So, this is going to be like your overall panel. You would want maybe to add a thyroid panel to it. Essential nutrients like iron and ferritin, vitamin D3, vitamin B12, and magnesium. This is where I would consult with your healthcare provider and ask them, I want to get my blood work done on a yearly basis to make sure that I am in a good place. Can you please, give me a list of what that looks like based on my health history? So for mine personally, I have been low in iron as an endurance athlete. So I always have that one on the list. And I also have been low in vitamin D3. So I always keep that one on my list as well. You'd also want to obviously know where your blood pressure is. Your body composition and your bone density are also really important, especially as we age. If we can get ahead of knowing that that our bone density is trending down, and we know that, let's say you're in your 50s and you get a DEXA scan and you can see that your bone density is starting to trend downward, we can implement something like strength training to help maintain your bone density so that you can keep strong bones as you age. So that's the kind of information that we really want to know. How can we pull some data out, like the bone density one, and then how can we implement something in order to continue improving your health over the years? So our section goals here: get your labs done, set appropriate goals based on your labs. If anything was low or off, if your cholesterol came back high, right, then we're going to want to look at your nutrition intake. Find resources to help you reach those goals, such as a registered dietitian, or maybe a trainer to help you in the fitness area. Obviously, having a physician on your list as well is important. And then most importantly, retest in 1 year. And that's where I want you to be able to look back, right? Because now we have a whole nother year worth of lab work. So I want you to be able to look back at the previous year and not just look at the results, but know the changes that you made so that you can continue forward making more small changes to continue moving towards performance and health, right? If you look at last year's labs and this year's labs, and let's say they got a little bit better, but you have no idea what you did, right? You don't know how you changed your nutrition. You're not sure if you exercised more or not. You're not sure if you managed, you had better sleep hygiene. Then it's really hard to know that you can keep making improvements. So having maybe like a health journal, a place where you kind of take note of everything that you are adjusting can be really helpful. Okay, so let's get to the nutrition part of it. So I had mentioned that we are going to learn how to adjust your nutrition and formulate your meals no matter what your fitness level is. So I'm teaching you the exact method that we use with professional athletes, collegiate athletes, but it also applies to the general public as well. And I love teaching this to the general public because I just think it's really impactful to be able to understand how your nutrition adjusts based on your activity level. So that's what we're going to learn about today. It's called the athlete plates. So there are 3 athlete plates. They all contain the same nutrients. So the color section here means fruit and vegetable. We have carbohydrates, we have protein, and we have healthy fats. So they all contain the same nutrients. The difference is the distribution of those nutrients, right? This plate, you would say, many people would say this plate looks like a low carbohydrate meal, right? Because carbs are the smallest portion, color is half the plate, protein is a quarter of the plate. You would say this one looks pretty equal, and you would say this one looks like a high carb carbohydrate meal. Now, the athlete plates, the original plate is this plate right here, which I'll click to the next slide. This is the original plate. This is actually the same plate as the USDA MyPlate. Okay, so if you've ever heard about the MyPlate, this is the exact same plate. Now, the US Olympic Committee saw the MyPlate and really liked the visual of it and how easy it was to understand how to build healthy meals. And so they wanted to do something similar for athletes to help active people and athletes understand how they need to adjust their nutrition based on their exercise output. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about now, is that each plate is a little bit different based on the exercise output that it supports. So this plate here, the Easy Athlete plate is what we call it, or it's also the USDA MyPlate. This plate supports about 1 hour of light intensity training. So this could be going for a 1 hour walk. This could be maybe a 30-minute easy jog and 30 minutes of yoga. It could be getting in your 10,000 steps in the day. Pretty light intensity and low duration, meaning it's not more than an hour and it's pretty light intensity. That is what this plate supports. And that is really what the, everyday American likely gets in on a daily basis. So that's why this is the USDA MyPlate, right? Most of us have desk jobs where we're pretty sedentary for 40 hours a week, and we're able to get out in the evening or in the morning or at lunch to get in an hour of training. Now, as you're starting to train for something specific, whether that is getting stronger in the weight room, whether that's running a marathon or a half marathon or a 5K or a triathlon, bike race, whatever that looks like, as your training increases, whether that be over an hour of training, so let's say you're doing an hour and a half to 2 hours now, or whether that's increased intensity, your athlete plate changes to this one. So the carbohydrate section gets bigger and the color section gets smaller, and the protein section actually stays the same. So an example of athlete or active adults who might be using this would be somebody who's training for a marathon, half marathon, triathlon, or somebody who's also doing some high intensity work. So that could also be like Orange Theory would be a really great example. This would be a very appropriate plate for somebody who is going to Orange Theory and doing very high intensity training for 1 hour. It is only 1 hour, but your intensity is so much higher than the previous plate, right? So when our intensity goes up, our carbohydrate needs go up as well. All right, so as we're starting to train even more, right now our 5K has turned into marathon training, or half marathon has turned into marathon training. And so now we're training for 2 hours or more, or 2 times a day, right? Maybe you're doing an hour strength training session in the morning and you're doing an hour run in the evenings, or training like a triathlon, maybe that's an hour swim in the morning and an hour run in the evenings. So now we are training at longer duration and also higher intensity as well as we build our workouts toward our race goal. So that's where this plate becomes most appropriate. So half of your plate is carbohydrates, a quarter of your plate is color, and a quarter of your plate is a protein. One nutrient I haven't mentioned is the fats. Those are all out to the side and they stay the same. They don't adjust because they're really considered like a garnish, right? Like butter on your bread, olive oil drizzled on your salad. Okay, so that's why that is out to the side there. So the carbohydrate section increases to 50% of your plate because intensity went up, and duration also went up. So those are the two times where we continue to adjust our plate, is if our workouts are getting longer and the intensity of those workouts, like speed workout, tempo workout, is getting higher. So here are some real life examples of what that looks like. The most important thing to know here is that they're not perfect, right? This is a close example. This is close to half my plate color, but it's it's close enough. So the color section, protein section, carbohydrate section. Here's pretty close. Half of my plate here is color, and then I have my carbs and protein, and even this is a BLT, so even a little bit more color on my sandwich. Half my plate here is a salad, and then I've got quarter of my plate pasta and quarter of my plate salmon. The plate method can be so easy because you can implement it anywhere, right? You don't have to count calories. You don't have to count carbohydrates. You really are basically eyeballing portion sizes, right? I need this is a quarter of your plate is going to be about a half a cup. So I need about a half a cup of pasta here. I need about half my plate of leafy greens, and I'm going to get about 4 ounces of lean protein right here. That is the type of nutrition education that I want you to take away from this, because I want it to be consistent and repeatable. I want you to be able to do this anywhere, whether you're going to Chick-fil-A and you're getting, their kale salad with their grilled chicken sandwich, or whether you are making meals at home and you're trying to meal plan and know what you need. That's where the plate method can become really, really easy. Repeatable and consistent equals, leads to really good habits over time. So here's some examples of the moderate plate. The carbohydrate section definitely gets bigger. It looks maybe more equal to our color and protein section. Again, it's not perfect, but think more equal parts here, compared to the easy athlete plate, where it was definitely half our plate vegetables. And then the hard athlete plate, where you're training at peak level, is going to be half your plate carbohydrates, quarter of your plate greens, color, vegetables, fruit, something, and then our protein section. Now, how you put this all together, right? How does this whole scenario equal health? We have the 3 athlete plates. What I want you to take away from this is understanding what plate to use based on how active you are. So if you are somebody who is maybe in the early stages of your active journey and you really don't work out more than an hour per day, the easy athlete plate, this one right here, is going to be your home base. That's going to be where you thrive. Okay, to get really, really good at building your plate to look like this. If you're somebody who's maybe in the middle of your active journey and you are, setting a goal to run a 5K or, do something, whether that's training for something, right? Whether it's a 5K, Orange Theory, or doing a triathlon, anything like that, then you likely would be starting here, and maybe bouncing up, changing up to the hard athlete plate on those really hard training days, on Saturdays when you're doing, swim and bike. And then during the week where you're only getting one workout in, you're doing the moderate athlete plate. And then on a rest day, we can implement the easy athlete plate too. So if you can align your activity level with your athlete plate, you're going to have an amazing nutrition plan that supports your body and what it needs to do, and is giving it the right nutrient combination for what you need. So where this can lead to not good health outcomes is when we are utilizing the wrong athlete plate when we're aligning the wrong athlete plate with the wrong workout time and duration frame. So for example, the hard athlete plate, if we're utilizing the hard athlete plate day in and day out, but our activity level looks more like the easy athlete plate, right? We're not in alignment there. So that's where the overconsumption of carbohydrates could lead to, pre-diabetes and eventually diabetes. So that's how that occurs. Okay, so that's why I love this. I love teaching this, and I love the plate method so much, because if you can understand the macronutrient combinations and how they align with activity level, and if you can simply align those, and be pretty consistent at it, right? There's always going to be fun days where, you make, like Thanksgiving, for example, right? Thanksgiving's super easy to consume a plate like this, mashed potatoes and noodles and rolls, right? Those days are always going to happen. And your health and fitness, is, can be very fine with the 80, 80-20 rule, where 20% of the time, is not perfectly balanced, and the 80% of the time we're trying really hard to have some good balance. All right, so that's the easy athlete plate, moderate athlete plate, hard athlete plate. How this looks in nutrient periodization, I'm going to go through this for anybody who is training for marathon, half marathon. I just want to show you how you can utilize all of the plates throughout your training cycle. So people who are in their active journey, and they are setting goals such as a race, they start to develop a training cycle, right? Maybe a couple years into doing 5Ks or a couple years into doing half marathons, you now have a cycle of when you are in your off season and when you start your training plan and when race day is. So that's very similar. We can align the plates with our training cycle. And this is exactly what we do with our collegiate and professional athletes, because they have training cycles as well. Their off season, their build phase, and their peak competition time. So in the beginning of your marathon training, right, you don't start out at high mileage. You start out very, very small mileage, low intensity, in order to not get injured. So that's where, skill-based work, less intense, shorter duration is the description of your exercise. And so your athlete plate here is absolutely going to be the easy athlete plate. As we start building our mileage up and we're building some intensity into our training, that's where we start to loop in the moderate athlete plate, that middle one. As we start getting towards peak mileage, we're getting building in endurance and, again, more tempo runs and higher intensity. With that peak mileage, we're leaning more towards the hard athlete plate. We might taper before our leading into our race day, so maybe we bump it back down to the moderate plate. We're going to carb load into race day with the hard athlete plate. Race day is going to be the hard athlete plate, and then complete rest, little training in the likely week or 2 weeks after race day. And so that would be a really good time for the easy athlete plate. So hopefully that helps you see a training cycle, right? And how you can adjust your nutrition and your meal plan very easily, and not having to think about counting calories and macros. It can be very, very simple. All right, so we want to align our plate with our training status, and we want to align our plate with our lab work as well. So if something came back in your lab work, such as pre-diabetes, then we want to make sure we are aligning our plate with that. All right, so lastly, I think we have 2 things left. We're going to talk about enhancing our plate and then putting it all together in a fueling schedule. So when it comes to carbohydrates, we want to focus on whole food carbohydrates as much as we can, such as potatoes and ancient grains like quinoa, whole grain pasta, brown rice, oats, beans. All of those are really good examples of carbohydrates. When it comes to carbohydrates that are coming in packaged products, not whole foods, right? Whole foods are very easy. We don't generally have to look at a nutrition label, because it's the potato. It's the, whatever potato you prefer. When it comes to a packaged carbohydrate, what I want you to look for is I want you to look for the product that has the highest amount of fiber. Generally, this comes from the 100% whole wheat product. So this would be like the 100% whole wheat bread or versus the white bread, or this would be the 100% whole wheat pasta versus the white pasta. So that is a very easy, quick tip that you could take away from today is when you're looking at a packaged carbohydrate in the grocery store, compare the amount of fiber. Sometimes you will also have to compare the serving size. I often see some bread is labeled 1 slice per serving and some bread is labeled 2 slices per serving. So make sure you're comparing the same serving size so you can accurately find the one with the highest fiber. When it comes to choosing your protein, we want to choose mostly high quality protein sources and sprinkle in the other lower quality protein sources. So what I would say is at your 3 meals per day, we're going to be looking for high quality protein sources. And the ranking on that, you can remember something very simple called was an animal, from an animal, beans, and then nuts. So this is your ranking on quality of protein coming from those products. So that's why, your animal meats such as chicken, fish, beef are going to contain the most amount of protein per calorie, right? The second thing you would do there is choose the lean options, so the ones with the less fat or cut the fat off. From an animal is going to have the next highest amount of protein. So this would be your dairy. So that could be, or your eggs. So eggs and dairy. So that could be like your milk, Greek yogurt, string cheese, eggs, also really good sources. Beans would be next on the amount of protein per gram. And then lastly would be nuts. So this is why as a dietitian, I don't generally say use peanut butter for protein. Peanut butter contains protein. Yes, it does. But it is one of the lower ends of the amount of protein we can get out of a food, right? Peanut butter actually has more healthy fats in it than it does protein. So technically, we could say it's a healthy fat, but it does contain protein. So anyway, this is kind of an easy thing that you can remember. We want, let's say 75% high quality protein, as long as you're not vegetarian or vegan. And then from there, sprinkle in your other protein sources. So the next thing we would do is make sure we're choosing a lean protein. So when it is a packaged item, you want to make sure that you are comparing the amount of fat to the amount of protein. Okay. And again, make sure it's the same serving size. So we're comparing apples to apples. So this is 2 links. So this product has 13 grams of fat in it to 7 grams of protein. Okay. So it has more fat in it than protein. So I'm not super excited about it. But we don't really know what other options we have until we start looking at other products in the grocery store. So then we find another product. It is also comparing 2 links. It has 4 grams of fat to 9 grams of protein. So this one is a much better product, right? Because it has more protein than fat. So this one is a leaner protein. Now, the thing I'm going to point out here is that, yes, this one is turkey, and yes, this one is pork. That is not always the case, though. So you can't just pick up the turkey product and assume it's the leaner option because it says turkey. Turn over the package and make sure by comparing the fat to protein, because there are turkey products out there that aren't the leanest option. So you just want to make sure that you are finding the best one that is within your budget. All right, then lastly, we're going to garnish our meal with healthy fats. if your meal doesn't already contain fat, such as steak or chicken with the skin on, right? Chicken with the skin on would be some fat, or if you have steak with some fat in it. So examples of healthy fats that we could add to our meal could be avocado to our burrito bowl, could be olive oil drizzled to our salad, chia seeds to our oatmeal, flax seeds. I put so much flaxseed in my kids' banana muffins, way more than the recipe says. And they turn out great. So that's, that makes me happy. I'm getting a good source of omega-3s in my children's muffins that they love. So anywhere you can sneak some extra omega-3s in is really great. All right, and then when it comes to fruits and vegetables, they are all great. This is, something that can be really just frustrating as a dietitian, is there is so much out there on social media and in magazines, and diet culture, tends to demonize certain areas of our nutrition. And when they start demonizing some fruits or vegetables, such as, these fruits have too many carbs in them, these vegetables, generally it's around carbs. So they might say these vegetables have too many carbs too. Like, all fruits and vegetables, the purpose behind fruits and vegetables is to get in your micronutrients. So yes, they're going to probably contain some macronutrients, which is your carbohydrates, fat, or protein, right? So they're going to contain some carbohydrates, but really the purpose is to be your multivitamin. Okay, so that's where I want you to start to see fruits and vegetables as your multivitamin carrier, for all of your vitamins and micronutrients that you need. There's so many, we can't even list them. And a good way to get in a variety is to get different colors on your plate. So each different color, generally represents a different phytonutrient or micronutrient. So getting in different colors, different types, can really help make sure you're touching the different areas of your micronutrient list. So if you are the person who only eats carrots, or you're the person who only eats, I don't know, any vegetable, broccoli, working with professional athletes, that's a great example. There was definitely athletes who would only eat steamed broccoli, which is fine. I'm so glad they eat broccoli, but we also need to get in and try some other nutrients, because if you're only eating broccoli, you're only getting the nutrients that are in the broccoli, right? We're not getting the beta carotene in carrots or the lycopene in tomatoes. So that's where we really do need a nice balance. And so, an easy way to get in lots of different nutrients could be something like roasting several different vegetables together. Like, I just did a root vegetable, a sheet pan of different root vegetables. So that was like carrots, a purple potato, I had beets and turnips, and I roasted them on a sheet pan. So that's getting me several different micronutrient areas, right? Smoothies can also be a really good way to get in lots of different. You can throw in kale or spinach into your smoothie that has fruits and protein in it. So that's really what I want you to think about when it comes to your fruits and vegetables, is that is your micronutrient area. And it really is important to get it in whole foods, and to try your best, right? Try your best, try a new fruit or vegetable. And if you've never liked something, try it a different way. Like, for example, I didn't grow up eating beets, but now I've learned, obviously I love beets as a dietitian because of their health properties, but I also have learned that I like them pickled and put on a salad. So you can learn different things about yourself as you grow and develop and change. And so I just think it's really important to continue trying and continue being curious and learning, and trying to get in more nutrients. All right, so the last thing we're going to cover really quickly is the fueling schedule. So this is kind of putting it all together, right? So over the course of a day, we need our 3 meals, snacks if we're training at a high level. And so a fueling schedule really just shows you how you're getting that in over the course of a day and how you're not skipping several hours. So writing out what that looks like for you can just be very helpful. If you are the person who is, let's say you're going to Orange Theory at 6 in the morning, you need to have a water bottle with you on your way to Orange Theory to consume that, to hydrate on your way there. Maybe a little bit of a carbohydrate snack as well, since you're about to go do HIIT training. So that could be, 50 to 100 calories of carbohydrates, very small, easy, could be an applesauce pouch. We do our training, and then after our training, we need to have breakfast. So we're having our athlete plate. So maybe that looks like yogurt with berries and granola for our athlete plate. And then, sorry, my example's off because of what I said, but as you can see, like you're laying out your day so that you know what that looks like, what meals you need to pack, where you need to hydrate, so that you can continue to push your fitness and support your health, right? Maybe you're the person who's more of an afternoon workout, so you eat a normal breakfast, you maybe have a mid-morning snack, you eat a normal lunch, and then 3 p.m. we are having our pre-workout snack of carbohydrates and water, or electrolytes and water, so that you can go home and do your 5 p.m. tempo run. Okay, so having it all written out can be really helpful, just like planning your week ahead and being able to meal prep to support your fueling. All right. That was really the end. So to wrap it all up, make sure that we are assessing the different areas of our health status, right? Pull more things into it than just your weight and your lab work. Pull everything into it: your current fitness training, your current nutrition, your sleep habits, your stress, your social life. Are you being fulfilled in your social life and getting enough social time for your health as well? So pull all of those areas in and make a goal or a way to be able to track how you're adjusting those different areas, so that a year from now, when you retest your health status through lab work, body composition, bone density, you know how you made changes and what you can continue to do to keep pushing your performance forward. So that's where I'll leave it. Is lastly, think performance when it comes to your health status, and how are we continuing to push our performance forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Anna. We appreciate it. We did have 2 questions in the chat. First one was, what is ferritin?
Yeah, good question. So ferritin is a part of your iron panel. So if you are an endurance athlete who's doing a ton of running, then that would be maybe a number that you ask your physician to take a look at. Oftentimes we don't generally test it unless you have symptoms of extreme fatigue. So that's why, as a sports dietitian, we end up seeing it often, is because endurance athletes or athletes who are training at a very high level end up utilizing a lot of that nutrient and become low in iron stores and ferritin. And one of the symptoms that they experience is extreme exhaustion. So as we're assessing the athlete and they're under recovering, they're not meeting their performance goals, they're exhausted, we start to add that part to the lab work.
Awesome. And then Leo asked, you indicated that you are an endurance athlete. What is your preferred endurance event?
Good question. So I've always been a triathlete. And I would say that, but I guess what I would say is I've always been a triathlete, but I enjoy cycling the most. So that would be, I guess, the place where I don't know, that I consider myself, yeah, most competitive is in the cycling, or maybe I just most enjoy it right now.
Awesome. Well, I think that was all the questions. So, Anna, thank you so much for sharing such great information about today's topic, performance
Absolutely.
nutrition, fuel your life and fitness goals. To all the attendees, I want to thank you all for joining us for today's health and wellness webinar. Your attendance today will also earn your team points for Corporate Challenge. Thanks to our title sponsor, Elevance Health, as well. If you enjoyed today's virtual programming, we have more ahead. Our movement challenge begins on June 9th and will run until June 19th. We'll send more information about how to participate in the movement challenge, but it will be conducted using the same Run Sign On website that you used to sign up for Corporate Challenge. Our next piece of virtual programming will take place next Tuesday at noon as we continue our virtual yoga series. I'll go ahead and drop that link in the chat so you can register if you'd like to participate. I hope you can make it. With that, thank you all again and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thanks so much.